One player that's been mocked to Buffalo a few times at number 26 is Ohio State defensive tackle Caden McDonald, 6'2", 236, was unanimous first-team All-American last season, has a little bit of burst to his game. What do you love about what Caden McDonald can do?
This guy might have been the best run defender of all the D tackles. I mean, there's really no mystery to his game. He was an outstanding run defender. He's quick off the ball. He's got knockback power. He can control and displace O-linemen. The thing that was so impressive about him, which you rarely see with these kinds of players, is he made a ton of tackles. Normally, these kinds of players, you look at the stat sheet and they make one tackle, and then you pop in the tape and you go, wow, they dominated the game, even though they only made one tackle. But this guy made over 60 tackles as a defensive tackle, playing as basically a run defender. He was a really fun watch. I mean, this guy he's an elite run defender. I'm sure he'll step right in and play as a rookie in base defense fronts, as a zero technique or a one technique. I think he can play effectively in either four-man fronts or 5-2 fronts. But, the next question for him is, can he develop into some kind of inside pass rusher? Now, early in his career, that won't be the case. But for what he is, he's a really high-level prospect.
Right. You see him, you turn the tape on, and you can't single block him at the college level. I mean, you might be able to find a guard here or center here in the pros that may get it done, but that guy was throwing guards and centers around, and you can't push him backwards with one guy. He holds the line or puts your offensive lineman back in the backfield. This guy was really dominant up front in a man-to-man contest.
No question. And by the way, the fact that he made so many tackles, that's a trait, because there's a lot of guys that, can control offensive linemen and let someone else make a play. But the fact that he could do that and then have the balance and body control to play off that contact, which he's being proactive in controlling, and then make tackles was really remarkable. I mean, like I said, I don't recall, Steve, ever seeing a D tackle with 65, 66 tackles. I mean, that's incredibly rare.
Right, they get 60, 65 double teams, and then let somebody else make the tackle.
True.
That's
correct. Yeah.
You're right. That's something you got to look at and say, wow, that's different. And you got to, and that's yeah. So that's awesome.
Right.
He will be a first rounder, I think, for sure, just because of the fact of that.
Right.
They'll take a chance on him learning how to pass rush.
No, I agree with that 1,000%.
Let's talk about the Florida prospect, the big guy, 6'6", 327, Caleb Banks, who, and I don't know that how do you project him at the next, is he a hand-on-the-ground defensive end in a 4-3? Or because the Bills just took Deion Walker, and those guys are a lot alike. I mean, Deion might be a hair taller and a hair heavier, but Caleb Banks is along those same lines, just a massive human being.
Yeah, the shame is the injuries. He only played 3 games this year, and then I guess he broke his foot after the season. But I watched him last summer, and I came away, this guy he's kind of freakish. I mean, if he was healthy and he played this season, we might be talking about him as the best defensive tackle prospect. You always hear interior people talk about, low to high with lift and drive into offensive linemen. He can do that. And like I said, he's got a club move as a pass rusher. I mean, he's got really good quickness. I thought this guy, when I watched him last summer, and again, the traits are still there. He just was hurt. And again, now you have to wonder if he can, be healthy, obviously. And every guy needs to develop more tools in the pass rush toolbox. But I think this guy has everything to his game. So the question is, in a 5-2 front, where does he play? I don't think he's really a nose. I think in a 5-2 front, he'd line up over the offensive tackle. But this guy, if he can stay healthy, this guy has a chance to be special.
You look at this defensive tackle class, and you're looking at size, you're looking at weight, you're looking at arm length. Well, there's a defensive tackle named Chris McClellan out of Missouri who has huge hands. That's his trait, 11-inch hands. What does McClellan bring to the game?
Yeah, he's a really interesting guy. I mean, he's a really good run defender, like we've spoken about with all these guys. And I think there's some pass rush there to really be developed. I mean, obviously, he didn't show it. He wasn't a big sack guy. And a lot of times defensive tackles in college are not. But I think there's something there to be developed. He really intrigued me. You know, again, I never know where guys are going to get drafted. I don't know how teams see guys based on their schemes. But I just felt, because I watched a lot of Missouri because they had the Zion Young, the D end as well. And I just kind of felt, and they had Josiah Trotter, the linebacker.
Yeah.
But I just felt watching McClellan, there's something there, Steve. I don't know if you got a chance to see him. It may not be ready right away, but it's there in his body. And I think that, again, without knowing the young man, you hope that he does all the right things, works hard, all those good things that have to happen at the NFL level to continue development. But something's there with this guy.
Certainly, he's got a swim move and a bull rush, but that's about it. And once those get shut off, he's pretty much done. He's got to have a little bit. He's got to. I don't know if you see him do secondary or second effort sacks kind of thing.
Right. Right.
That, and some of that is like those fall into sacks. So once in a while, but once once that swim move or his bull rush gets stymied, there's not much left in the tank, and you gotta have something. You got to have a whole menu of things you got to go to, and his menu seems limited.
That's true of a lot of defensive tackles at the college level. They don't have a lot of tools in the pass rush toolbox. They have to be taught that. Because a lot of guys can win with just power at the college level. They're stronger than the guys they're playing against. And, so they don't really develop a lot of that, and you have to teach them that. And a lot of that's technique.
All right, let's talk about
De'Von Achane, Dolphins running back, just a day after new GM John Eric Sullivan said at his pre-draft press conference that Achane is not available in trade, which means we haven't gotten an offer that we are willing to accept, and we don't expect to get one because he's not Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, untouchable. There's an offer that would get him. They just haven't gotten one. They're trying to work out a deal with him. Achane, according to ESPN, showed up. He had been staying away from the voluntary offseason program, showed up in what is believed, per the reporting, a sign of good faith as the contract discussions continue. I would say this to De'Von Achane: be careful when you're working out, because you have no financial security beyond this season. You get an injury that covers an extended period of time, you are SOL as it relates to your long-term financial best interests.
100%. Now, John Eric Sullivan, his interview with you was great. He's impressive. What they have going on in Miami between John Eric Sullivan and Jeff Hafley, they're going in the right direction. And he basically admitted that to you when he talked about trading Jalen Waddle to the Broncos. Just a different point in the evolution of the Miami Dolphins. They're at a different point than the Broncos are, and so he wanted to put Jalen Waddle in a better position. But you're right; it's the same thing with Achane. If somebody comes to them on draft night and says, we'll give you a first and a second this year and a first next year, they'll trade him. They just haven't had anybody come to him with that. I think he is smart enough, Achane. He and his representatives are smart enough not to do anything without some assurances, without something in writing that he's going to get the deal that he deserves. There's no question. He's a fantastic player, but the Dolphins are rebuilding. They pretty much are telling you that. They've hung that shingle out. We're rebuilding and we're open for doing business. And I think that includes Achane. I don't think he's untradeable. I understand why he would say it, but I don't think it's true.
Well, and a lot of the moves that the Dolphins had made in the offseason are moves that they would have made regardless of whether or not they view themselves as a potentially relevant team in 2026. When they traded Waddle, that was the first time I think there was any credence to the idea that they're deliberately taking a step back in the hopes of taking multiple steps forward in the future. If they would trade Achane, that would reinforce that belief. The fact that they're hanging on to him and they're making the big statement, he's not available in trade, I think they're trying to convince fans to believe that they're going to try to win this year, because good luck filling Hard Rock Stadium for 8 home games this year if your fans don't think you're trying to win this year. If they think you're waiting until next year, they will too. So we'll see if they trade him. I think they have done everything they can to beat the bushes on a possible trade. They know what the most is that someone will offer. But you know what, Michael? The draft itself adds another data point to the conversation. What if there's somebody that really wants Jeremiah Love and they think they're going to get Jeremiah Love? And I said yesterday, I believe, or the day before, I can't remember, the Cardinals are in a great spot where they could trade the number 3 overall pick to somebody who wants to jump both the Titans and the Giants to get Jeremiah Love, because those two teams are both regarded as possible landing spots, with the Titans being the favorite from the betting standpoint, to the extent that means anything, and maybe it doesn't at number 4. All of a sudden, if the Titans don't get him, if the Giants don't get him, hell, Dexter Lawrence for De'Von Achane, how about that? You'd probably have to add, I don't know, it's an interesting question. You do Dexter Lawrence for De'Von Achane. Which side adds more to the pile?
Bills Mafia, let me ask you a dangerous question. What if the Buffalo Bills do not need De'Von Achane because they are weak at running back, but because he is exactly the kind of speed demon who could push Josh Allen's offense from dangerous to downright unfair? Because that is the angle that makes this conversation so good. This is not about replacing James Cook. This is not about saying Buffalo has no weapons. The Bills already officially added DJ Moore, and the roster still has Khalil Shakir, Joshua Palmer, Keon Coleman, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, James Cook, and more around Josh Allen. So this is not a desperation story. It is a luxury weapon story, and those are the ones that get scary fast. But first, let's keep it real. The actual current reporting makes this a long shot. Reuters reported the Dolphins told teams Achane is not available in trade talks, and public reporting says Miami is working toward an extension with him, not planning to move him. He is coming off a Pro Bowl level 2025 and is still on a very team-friendly rookie contract. So this is not a live rumor in the sense of Buffalo is closing in. No chance. This is a how would it look if the impossible became possible type of story. And that is still worth breaking down because the fit is nasty. Achane's profile is what makes it so juicy. He is not just fast, he is offense-bending fast. The official Dolphins stats page shows more than 3,000 rushing yards from scrimmage in his first 3 seasons combined, plus major receiving production, including 78 catches in 2024 and 67 more in 2025. That means he is not some gimmick. He is already a proven NFL multi-purpose weapon. Yeah! Now imagine Joe Brady getting a hold of that in Buffalo. Imagine Achane lined up next to Josh Allen in shotgun, with DJ Moore outside and Shakir moving around inside. Imagine defenses trying to decide whether to widen for Achane, shade help to Moore, spy Allen, or hold enough bodies in the box to survive Cook when the Bills go heavier. That is how coordinators get tortured. And that is the beauty of the idea, Bills Mafia. Achane would not have to carry the offense, he would have to detonate it. He would fit as the motion weapon, the perimeter threat, the explosive touch player, the guy who turns ordinary snaps into panic for the defense. Josh Allen's biggest superpower is that he can punish hesitation instantly. Achane creates hesitation. DJ Moore creates hesitation. Put both on the field together, and suddenly everything gets wider, lighter, and more explosive. Oh man, now the middle opens for Kincaid. Now the linebackers get stressed in coverage. Now play action becomes poisonous. Now every missed tackle feels like a touchdown waiting to happen. That is the dream. So how could Buffalo pull this off if they ever tried? Honestly, the path is incredibly narrow. Miami would have to stop feeling good about extension talks, reverse its public stance, and decide the value of a trade package is better than keeping one of its best young players. Then Buffalo would have to pay a brutal intra-divisional premium. And because Achane is so cheap in 2026, around a $2.3 million cap charge per over the cap, the Dolphins have zero contract pressure forcing a move right now. That is what makes this so hard. The player is awesome, cheap, productive, and publicly declared unavailable. That is the opposite of a natural trade target. But here is why the topic still works for your channel. It lets Bills fans imagine what the most explosive version of this offense could look like. Not just strong, explosive. Josh Allen bombing away, DJ Moore creating chunk plays, Achane detonating space, Kincaid working seams, Cook keeping defenses honest. That kind of offense would not just be hard to stop, it would feel like a track meet with a freight train at quarterback. So my honest take is simple. The move is highly unlikely today because Miami is saying all the right things about keeping Achane. But if that stance ever changed, Buffalo would absolutely have a football argument for making the call. Bills Mafia, tell me what you think. If the Dolphins ever blinked, would you want the Bills to push hard for De'Von Achane, even with James Cook already in the backfield, just to build the most explosive attack possible around Josh Allen and DJ Moore? Drop your take in the comments, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay locked in. Because sometimes the craziest ideas are the ones that show you just how dangerous this team could become.